Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Mindful Mondays, Dil Diyan Gallan. Today, we're going to be talking about relationships and specifically when we feel hurt in relationships. We had a call come in a few months back. We were on the radio and someone had contacted us and asked about how to get over pain and hurt in a relationship when this person particularly felt they were betrayed. So this person's experience, the way it was explained, was that to begin with, he wasn't very trusting of others. He didn't want to have friendships or relationships because he believed that people generally are quite selfish. And what happened was he somehow developed this relationship with a woman at work. Now, both have their respective families. They developed a friendship, and both families were aware of the friendship. And over time, so they had this friendship for about 2 and some years. And at some point, from this person's perspective, his friend, she shifted how she was with him, and all of a sudden was a little bit reluctant to speak to him, blocked him on social media, blocked his phone number so he couldn't get in contact with her. And for him, this was just absolutely out of nowhere, didn't understand how this complete 180 happened, but it happened. And now he was sitting with, what the heck's going on? Why this immediate change? And when he tried to approach friends, common friends, or went to her workplace and tried to approach her to get some understanding as to what was happening, she got defensive and also accused him of harassing her and stalking her. So this was a complete 180 from his original experience of friendship, of care, of this feeling of family, of having this extended family who spoke to his family as well, and he had spoken to his. So he really had this sense that where there's this trust here, yes, there are kind people in the world, and I've met one, and now this person is just an extended version of my family right now. And then boom, it changed. From his perspective, it was quite sudden. Now, how does one deal with this? Where do we go? First and foremost, understanding what that hurt can do to us at a deep level is very important. And what I mean by that is hurt and pain and relationships. Really, there's information in our nervous system that is taken quite immediately about that. Before we even have thoughts about it, sometimes before we even feel fully, that vulnerability or that little vibration of vulnerability where something is off, boom, our nervous system starts to assess it. And now our nervous system is quite old, right? It is thousands of years old. It's when humans were living out in the wild with the wild, where homes were made out there. They weren't as secure as they are today. And you needed a community to survive. You needed people. You needed that full community in order to protect yourself from the wild and survive in the wild. Assure that you have food, assure that you have shelter. Safety was absolutely paramount for one to be able to stay alive. Now, we still have that nervous system. And when we face something like that emotional betrayal or rejection, and this is a form of rejection that this man experienced, when we get that rejection, our nervous system normally, when unsupervised and is still figuring out relationships, and especially when you've just trusted in one, our nervous system is quite sensitive to that betrayal or that feeling of rejection is what it really comes down to. Even the idea of betrayal and the feelings of betrayal in the nervous system come down to a feeling of rejection. And what did rejection mean so long ago? It meant, I'm going to die. So the body fully goes into that mode. It goes into this panic mode. You can get aggressive. You can shut down completely. You can get quite anxious, right? Our nervous system has a fight, flight, and freeze reaction, and any of those can happen in you. Now, your body's going all over the place. There's lots happening in here. And what is the role of the brain with the nervous system? Is that it is constantly trying to make meaning of what is happening inside of us and around us to make the nervous system feel safe and comfortable. So now all of a sudden you have this friend or this family member who you feel is a family member, not wanting to answer phone calls, not wanting to answer those questions. And there's this other aspect of maybe they did answer that question, but it didn't settle the nervous system for you because up here it didn't make sense. Now, understanding that rejection sends off all these fire alarms in our body, all these fire alarms in our brain. It's really important to know that, because that's where these reactions are coming from, is that very deep, deep sense of threat that is experienced, a threat to one's life. Now, those feelings are real. That response is what's happening. But all that's going on up here may or may not be accurate. Now, for this individual, he's developed 4 theories as to why this happened. Maybe it's that it became too much for her family. Maybe someone in her family disapproved that she had a male friend. Maybe there was an argument between the two of them, and maybe the friend, he just got a little frustrated at times when she didn't return phone calls, and that became too much for her. Now, again, there's more than one theory for this person, but the problem is the mind will continue to make theories up and will continue to try to make meaning out of this because it needs to settle the body. But in actuality, the mind doesn't know. The mind doesn't know the exact reasons. It is making assumptions, and it's hoping that it'll settle the nervous system. It'll settle that feeling of threat and rejection so that you can feel more at ease. But these are assumptions. The only actual knowing is from that other party. And if that other party refuses to either offer that, or when they do offer it, it still doesn't make sense, well, now there's this internal work that we have to do. That internal work that we have to do, one part of it is accepting that we cannot control any other person other than ourselves. We can't control our children. We want to think that we can, but we can't. We can't control our partners. And we definitely cannot control friendships and friends. And we don't know. Even when someone is expressing so much about what's happening in their life and we believe that there's a strong friendship, just as humans in general, we're limited in our awareness and understanding of what might actually be going on for us. So if you do ask the friend, hey, what's up? Like, why did you stop talking to me? And they come up with this response that doesn't make sense, there's a very high likelihood that they may not know either. They might also be reacting to something that has shown up in their nervous system, some sort of threat response or overwhelm, and they're responding to it. Majority of us humans, we're responding to threat. We're responding to perceived threat. And we're doing this unconsciously. And as we're doing that, those responses are then taken from someone else and they perceive what they perceive from that. So really understanding deep down, there's a story of the mind that is happening, but there is a story of our nervous system. There is our body's, our physiology story that is happening moment to moment to moment. And when we can understand our own threat responses, even our connect responses, so our desire to connect or disconnect, when we can understand that at a deeper level, then we can also begin to understand, or at least accept, that each and every one of us out here is at a different place in our journeys. Yes, something that someone else did or didn't do. So maybe in this, offer that explanation and really offer that understanding that what someone else did or didn't do is within their journey's context. Everything else that we're making of it from up here is an assumption of what we're making to make this feel better. The unfortunate part of relationships and moments like this is when there isn't that mutual offering of understanding, mutual desire to understand, there are going to be parties that are left with these big question marks. What happened and why did it happen? And now, if you are one of those people that are left with those big question marks, why did this happen to me? It's super important if you are not able to get that response. Frankly, even if you do, it may not satisfy you, but it's really important to accept that that why is not in your power, to accept what you actually do have control over. And in this particular case, it might be to accept one piece that I don't know the other person's story. The second piece is, yes, this has again impacted my trust of people. And the third piece is accept that whatever has happened, whether it's happened to me by someone else or from me within myself, regardless of what happened and why, whatever is happening in here today, whatever is happening in here today is for me to figure out and heal, no matter who has caused it. Because if we focus on that party who has caused this pain or suffering from what your perspective is, or is continuously adding to this pain and suffering, if we focus over there, remember, we don't have control over that party. So if we're focusing on that party and all of our attention is over there, but we cannot control it, well, then we are just in a land of suffering, in a land of hopeful abyss, just with our hands up, hoping that that will fall into our hands, versus taking control back. And to take control back, we have to accept that that healing comes from us. We have to accept that someone or someone's actions or some sort of misunderstanding has impacted me today. And then maybe for some of us, we have to decide, hey, am I in a place to walk back into that world and be vulnerable and try to build relationships again? Or is it in my best interest right now to maybe just close that door or close that window for now, rebuild this relationship with myself, rebuild this trust with myself, maybe honor and offer more space to the relationships I already have. And then one day, if wanted, if desired, I step back into that world. And now, if any of this seems confusing or, whoa, that's a lot, find someone that you think is able to understand this and is willing to listen and have conversations about it, or speak to a professional. You can find a counselor, a psychologist, or someone that might be able to walk through this journey with you, help you understand yourself more, develop that awareness, and maybe even also find a place of acceptance within. Remember that we're working with not just the mind story of what's happening, we're also working with the body story of what has happened and what is happening now. And our body has its own relationship with trust, and our nervous system has its own relationship with safety and threat, with connection and disconnection. And understanding those aspects of our mental well-being, of our physiology, can really empower us in our own healing and also in bringing the attention back from places we cannot control to ourselves, where healing and peace and calmness can actually happen. They will not happen if our eyes and our arms are focused somewhere else where we cannot control what's occurring. I hope this Mindful Monday, talking about relationships, acceptance, individual journeys, and also understanding that our mind can make a lot of noise and frankly is trying to put together pieces just so we can feel calm, which means it's not always accurate or true. I hope talking about these things and listening to these things is helpful. If you have any comments, if you have any other questions that I can possibly address, please do leave those below. And I will see you next Monday for our next Mindful Monday, Dil Diyan Gallan. Thank you so much.